Average at Best Cornhole here. I wanted to revisit my bag break-in method using white distilled vinegar. I feel like I've perfected this over numerous amounts of bags that I have broken in. I no longer do it the way I used to by pouring a cup or a cup and a half and soaking it in there. I felt like over time it broke the bags in too quickly, and I wanted to scale that back some because I wanted to get to the bags, broken to a point where the fabric's soft and they're ready to start throwing, but you still need to throw them more to get them broken in all the way. I'm using less white vinegar. I am adding like a touch of fabric softener, like the least amount possible that I could put in there. And I stopped using heat in the water and heat it all in the tumble because I really felt like it was shrinking the bag. So step one is you have to apply the vinegar, and this is where it changed. I actually started using a tiny spray bottle and a funnel. So I put the white distilled vinegar straight into that spray bottle with the funnel, and this is what I use to apply to the cornhole bags. Now, typically on average, I'd say it's about 5 sprays per side. This could vary. Sometimes hybrid materials with liners could take a little bit more. You can feel how thick they are. OG carpets, they're going to take a little bit more. But sometimes hybrid materials, they only need like 1 or 2 sprays. And then the fast side is what's a little bit more stiff. So you probably need to put 5 sprays on that. So that's where a judgment goes into when you are spraying it. But the point of spraying it is you spray it evenly over, and then you actually just work that white distilled vinegar straight into the fabric, rubbing it with your thumbs and fingers and getting it into the corners and seams. And then I let those bags sit for about 15 minutes before I add any type of water or anything to them to, let that vinegar really absorb into the fabrics. And then the second step to this, I use fabric softener. Now, this is what we use for our laundry, so that's what I use. I know wrinkle guard is very common. People use that on cornhole bags. So you can use whatever fabric softener you want. I don't think there's going to be any difference in the brands. The trick is I use like the tiny amount possible that I can use. I tip that jug and I literally just want a drop or 2 to go into my container. And then in this video, I'm doing 2 sets. So I actually did that twice. So essentially it's just like 2 drops. And the reason for that is, on these instructions on these fabric softeners, it's telling you to use a cup or a half a cup or whatever for a load of laundry. Well, that's a lot of fabric. Cornhole bags, they don't have that much fabric, so you don't need a lot. And then I know people are going to say, oh, you can't use fabric softener because it makes the bag slimy and I can feel immediately. Well, that's probably because people were adding a half a cup to a full cup of this stuff and way overdoing it. You only need just a little tiny drop for the little bit of fabric on the cornhole bags, and that's what really gets them, nice and soft and ready to play. And hopefully you saw in my video that I was pre-mixing that 2 drops of fabric softener in the water. I'm using room temperature water. I flip the hot and the cold on. You can use cold if you want, but it's not steaming, it's not hot. I don't want hot water. I just mix it up a little bit, pre-mix it up with the fabric softener to get it mixed in with the water, and then I dump it on top of the bags. I then let the bag soak for like an hour total in this mixture. I didn't add any more white distilled vinegar. It could come out of the fabrics into the water, but primarily it's just a little bit of fabric softener in that water, so that's why you see the yellow. I know every 15 minutes I do take the bags, and I want to flex and massage, and you can see in the video, I'm really focusing on the corners and the seams because that's where all the fabric is doubled up, and if there's liner, sometimes it's quadrupled up. So you really just want to massage and flex and knead that bag quite a bit inside that mixture to help, get the mixture into the fabrics a little bit more. Now you do see when I'm done, I always flip the bag over, fast side, slow side. Just helps me keep track of which bag I've already kneaded when I put it back into the solution. After that 1 hour soak, I wash the bags and I throw them in my washing machine. I have not had any issue with pulls or snags from that, and I think it It does the best job of washing everything out of the fabrics, and I like the extra tumble. You know, the pellets inside these bags too, they need to, you know, round off a little bit and, you know, get rid of all the sharp edges on them for them to be broken in. So the extra tumble that I get in the washing machine, I do think helps. I usually just pick the bag straight up, let them drain some, then toss them right into the washing machine. I do make sure to put the spin cycle on the lowest cycle possible, because the bags, you know, when they wet, they are going to be heavy, and I don't want the washing machine, you know, getting out of level or whatnot. And I use cold water. There's no reason to use, you know, anything above the cold water, because we're not adding heat to them anymore. But I put them on a normal cycle with that low spin. I do not add any more fabric softener, any more vinegar. I do not add any soap. I just let them wash in their own water and material mixture, and then it goes through the rinse cycle and, you know, gets all that out. I will say also, you know, after that spin cycle, the bags come out pretty dry already, which is a more of a benefit than, you know, hand washing the vinegar and the fabric softener out of them, because they're still soft and wet at that point. After that spin cycle, they are pretty dry. After that wash cycle, I still use the dryer. I throw the bags in there with a couple extra towels, but I have found another secret weapon, and that's dryer balls. And I know you're going to look at this and you'll be like, there's no way I'm going to use that. With those sharp points on it, it's going to snag and ruin my bag. I've done over 50 sets with these balls in there, and I have never had an issue with pulls or snags or fabric getting too weak. What this does is it helps the bag tumble more. And like I said, you have to break those pellets down inside the bag a little bit more, and the more that it tumbles, the more that's going to happen. It's the same with the towels in there. I think that extra, you know, the towel fabric with your slow side and your fast side hitting that as it's tumbling, it helps break the materials in a little bit more, but it's also going to help slow them down some. And I think these really help with the tumble. The towels are more, it's just helping the material slow down and get to a playable condition. And finally, the last step is to go throw the bags. Like I said, you're not using a lot of chemicals, so it softens the materials. It gets the pellets just about ready, but you're still going to need to throw the bags to get them game ready. They're not going to be game ready after this break-in, which is going to extend the life of the bags. If you do break them in too much, I think that it's decreasing the life of the bags, because you're just breaking down the fabrics too much. And that's why I kind of scaled back some on my approach. I just wanted to get them softened up and ready to start throwing, and then I finish off the break-in by throwing. Just want to end this with, you're going to be average at something, be average at cornhole.